I'm Agent Ford. This is Agent Hamill. We're with the U.S. Wildlife Service.
It's interesting that this episode has a Star Wars reference in because in the beginning of Supernatural, the two main focuses of inspiration for the show was Star Wars and the X-Files. Now, what's interesting about that is that this episode feels more like the X-Files to me than any other episode. With that being said, I've only actually seen the first season of The X-Files, and it was a long time ago when I watched it. Welcome to the Eccentric Academy. I'm Cademan David, or as the Loch Ness Monster calls me, Mr. Cow. I'll be your professor for this class in science fiction and nerdery. For today's lesson, we will be talking about the supernatural film entitled Dead in the Water. It's funny in this episode they keep bringing up the Loch Ness Monster because this episode is so early on in the show that as an audience we don't know if we realistically might see the Loch Ness Monster. You know, in these first episodes we're left just to assume that anything and everything is real. Which I really like that about the early episodes of Supernatural. Later seasons they would probably introduce the Loch Ness Monster, but he's just kind of a human that shoots water from his hands or something. Yes, I'm still salty about the dragons. Watch my last Supernatural review if you don't know what I'm talking about. Supernatural dragons bloody suck, and they make me angry. This episode has a pretty good cast as well. Dean's love interest from this episode is played really well, I think. The actress does a good job, as well as the actor who plays the sheriff in this episode. I also thought he did a good job. You know, playing that in between a antagonist and, you know, just sort of a small town sheriff. I thought he did good. With that being said, I didn't think the kid was acted the best. You know, there is good child actors, but more often than not, children aren't the best actors. And with all due respect to this kid here, I wonder what he's doing now. But I didn't think he was great. With that being said, I do love kind of the role the kid plays in the story. I'm a big sucker for a sort of cursed child story, a la Sixth Sense, and I like the idea of him drawing sort of things that have to do with what happened back in the past or the next attack. You know, I sort of like how he's tied into it, and I enjoy that he sort of ends up giving hints via drawing. But the army men felt a little weird to me. Pause right there. I just wanted to say, when I was editing this video, I actually realized that the kid from The Sixth Sense had army men too.
I stand by that in the context of the episode. It feels a little weird. I didn't quite understand what the point of the army men was. If you have thoughts on that, you can leave a comment. But I did think it was interesting that the kid from The Sixth Sense, had army men that like he sort of carried around with him into the church and played with them. And so does this kid. So I can't help but wonder, because Supernatural was such a it took a lot of inspiration, as some call it, or some might call it plagiarism. Anyway, I can't help but wonder if like this story, like the kid was meant to be very similar to the kid from The Sixth Sense. Who knows? But I thought it was an interesting enough connection to mention. And, since I'm already talking about The Sixth Sense in this episode anyway, I figured I would include it in here.
And as far as cursed child stories, which I like, this is sort of a weaker one I've seen, which I may have to cut some slack, seeing as this is just one episode of a bigger TV show. But what it comes down to is it's kind of a toss-up whether or not I liked the kid's storyline. I also thought that him talking in the end seemed a little bit off, right? I get that they're trying to be like, oh, and then he was better and everything was better, but, assuming it wasn't some sort of supernatural curse that made it so he couldn't talk, it seems like there should be some building up before he's just like completely ready to start talking again. I understand you can't really do that with the TV show though. This episode was absolutely beautiful, taking place in this sort of lake town. There's a lot of trees that makes for a lot of really pretty shots in this. And I really like it when Supernatural visits smaller towns. That vibe just kind of gels with me, probably in part because I grew up in a very small town. And I enjoy the idea of a lake ghost who had, drowned and now they haunt the lake. In part because I'm a little bit scared of lakes in real life, because I think probably there's some ghosts or dinosaurs down there. And I don't want to be killed by ghosts or dinosaurs. But let me know, what did you think of this episode? I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments section. And if you want to watch the rest of my Supernatural reviews, that is, reviews of the TV series Supernatural, not reviews that are, like, supernaturally entangled, like reviews that are cursed by a demon or something. Though there might be some of those, I don't know. But anyway, if you like watching Supernatural reviews, I'll link those videos up there in that top corner. But maybe you're a Trekkie. You prefer Star Trek to Supernatural. I got you covered. I'll link my Star Trek episodes right there in that corner. With that being said, class dismissed. Farewell, and remember, don't go under. Did that look good?